So, hi V, welcome. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me today. Before we dive in, can you share a bit about yourself and also what led you into carnivore? How did it all start for you?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Joseph. I really appreciate channels like this because, we're not going to get this information anywhere else, right? So I'm very grateful to be here today and to share with you. My journey with carnivore, I heard about carnivore because of the Petersons, maybe, I don't know when they hit the internet with it, but that was kind of like my first initial interaction with the carnivore diet, and it kind of went through one ear out the other. Like, that's nice for them. I'm glad that, they experienced healing, but I didn't really think it was something for myself. And until about, I would say, a year ago, it became more of something I thought about because I've struggled with eczema my whole life. But a year ago, I met two people that had been carnivores. And that was kind of the first time I realized, like, okay, you can do this and not die. Like, you hear everybody on the internet and you don't know these people, right? So as much as it's like, you just never know. But these were people that I actually knew, and I watched them lose weight and, their experience. And I thought, okay, like, perhaps this is a thing. And I also have a friend that her son had eczema, and she didn't go all the way carnivore with him, but she kind of gave him a more meat-based diet. And he experienced healing. He doesn't eat carnivore, but she figured things out, and a lot of meat was helpful to him. So that's about a year ago that I was like, okay, this is still this could be a possibility. Perhaps this could heal my skin, but I just wasn't quite ready yet. I have been a carnivore now for 12 weeks. So not very long, but long enough to experience some pretty marvelous things. What brought me to carnivore is the fact that I have had eczema, like, as long as I remember. Either I was itching or I was soaking in this Vaseline-like terrible smelling Betnavate steroid ointment. Like, that was my life, and I knew the only way to get rid of the itchy rash was to put on the medication, and then I would be fine. It would work like magic. And that's what the doctors told my mom to use when I was very young. So that's what we did. And food was never brought up. Diet, nutrition was never an issue. It was just, she needs to use these creams, like, for the end of time. And that's that. It's incurable, and, Bob's your uncle. So that was what I pretty much did for most of my life. And at one point, maybe I was 12, or I kind of lived with my dad half and my mom half. And, when I go to my dad's, I wouldn't apply the creams. And so naturally my skin would start to break out, and I would come home and my mom would just slather me head to toe with the steroids to kind of calm my skin down. So I started to see that if I didn't use the creams, my skin would react very, very poorly. I didn't know about something called topical steroid withdrawal at the time. This is like the early 90s. They're just giving you steroids like it's candy, Along with that, even at that time, if you were sick, the doctors would prescribe just antibiotics very easily. So as a child, I was heavily bathed in steroids, and I was taking, antibiotics for like the common cold. And a lot of issues with eczema are gut issues. So antibiotics are terrible for the gut. And then, not to mention, I'm using steroid cream to suppress my immune system. That's of no help. So anyway, it was a cocktail of a perfect storm underway. And I think maybe at 16, 17 was the very first time I went without my steroid cream for three weeks. And oh my gosh, my skin went from 0 to 100. I wasn't recognizable by the end of that 3 weeks. My eyes kind of got inflamed. My whole body was in a head to toe rash. It was very scary. I made jokes that I looked like Freddy Krueger, or Freddy Krueger's child. It was awful. And so I remember trying different things in the meantime. I don't remember if it was I couldn't get a doctor's appointment, but I just ran out of the cream. So I'm using Aveeno and taking baths and doing all the things. Nothing's working. Eventually, I went to the walk-in clinic because I was in so much pain at that point. And they kind of looked at me like, oh my goodness, like this is pretty serious. And they wanted to refer me to a dermatologist. But to kind of hold me over, they gave me this huge tub of steroid cream. And I mean, like, it was probably like this big, like it was huge. Actually looked kind of similar to this, but it was tall. It was taller. So, I went home that night and I slathered myself in head to toe with the steroid creams. And I would say like within the day, I was fine again. Like everything calmed down. The dead skin kind of flaked away. I looked normal. And at that point, I just said, okay, I need to be serious about my cream if I want to look normal. And so from like 17 to about 21, my eczema was at bay as long as I used the cream. I didn't realize that using these creams was going to cause me problems down the line. I just thought it's a cream. Like this is just how life goes and this is my portion. So I just continued to use the creams. And so I usually had eczema on my neck, maybe the odd patch on my face, on my arms and the backs of my legs. That unless I was going through that withdrawal, that's where it would be. But at about 20, I started to get it all over my hands. And it was also around the time that I got married. So everyone's wanting to see my hands because I just got a beautiful diamond ring. And so I started to feel very self-conscious, obviously, about all the blisters and cuts and things. So I went in to a dermatologist and of course they said, well, you can have more steroids. And so I'm like, okay, give it to me. Like, you know, and I used the steroids for a while and it worked and then it stopped working. And then I went to another dermatologist and the dermatologist said, the reason why it's not working is you're not using enough and that I need to use, you know, it 5 times a day for it to get better. And I think at that point I was like, okay, like this is a bit much. 5 times a day is a bit much. And I kind of lost hope that I could heal like in the doctors. Like all they wanted to do is just give me more steroid cream. And then they said, if you like, you could do an injection or you could do a pill. And for some reason that just did not resonate with me. I'm very grateful because withdrawing from oral steroids is actually worse than just topicals. So I just kind of said, forget it. Like, I'm going to go the natural route. And I think I went to a naturopath and they gave me a whole host of different things that I could take, but it was too expensive. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. And I came across a website called Eczema, and it's basically this initiative to bring awareness to topical steroid withdrawal. And this was probably like 15 years ago. This is the first time in my life I had ever even heard of topical steroid withdrawal. And when they described it, they call it like red skin syndrome. And it's kind of like, it just sounded like what I went through when I was 17, like full body flare, you know, you feel like you're on fire. You can't sleep. Your skin is weeping liquid. Like I just had remembered that. But the doctor said kind of that, I guess he pioneered this concept. He said, you know, just stop the steroids and eventually it'll burn out and you'll be eczema free. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I quit my steroid cream. I said, it's not even really working anyway. So I quit the cream and I went through hell. My body went haywire. Like you just think you're putting a cream on. Those steroids are doing a lot. They're shutting down your immune system. So I guess technically when you stop using them, it's like your immune system wakes up and is hypersensitive to everything. I felt like I was covered in a million paper cuts and then someone just went and put rubbing alcohol over my body. Like I was constantly just in pain. I looked awful. I had a little home daycare at the time. I had to quit that because I couldn't work. For a few months, the only thing that felt comfortable would be to just sit in a bathtub of like Dead Sea salt water and just stay in that. That's the only way I could feel comfortable. And I had to kind of ride that out almost, I would say it took about 1.5 years. The worst of it was the first 6 months. And then, you know, I felt normal again, or normal. This is the new normal. Sadly, after all of that, I got over my TSW and I wasn't head to toe covered, but I was left with my eczema, which was not something I bargained for. I thought I was just going to be healed and, I would grow out of it. And a lot of people say this about eczema. They'll be like, oh, you'll grow out of it. And I'm like, I'm almost 40. I haven't grown out of anything. And that's probably in parts to the overuse of the medications, and my system just hasn't figured out what it needed to do. So anyway, I still had my eczema, and I started to try to find other things. I went to light therapy. They actually burned me. So now I had like almost a permanent burn on my, like I was lighter and I looked like I had a tan for many, many years. It took a long time for that to be reversed. And I just did one thing after another, and sometimes see a little bit of help, then not. So fast forward, I guess, till this time last year, you kind of get used to seeing yourself the way you look. So I guess my eczema was getting progressively worse, but I was used to it. The people that are around me are used to it. However, I hadn't been to my doctor, I guess, within the year. So I went to see her, and she took one look at me and was like, okay, you need to do something with your skin. And I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, oh my gosh, I look that bad, huh? And I told her, well, I don't want any steroid creams. Like, that's not on the table. And she's like, okay, I'm going to send you to a dermatologist, my favorite place. I was like, oh my gosh, another one. Like, what are they going to say? Like 10 times now I need to bathe in steroid cream? Like, but she assured me that, this dermatologist was better, and there's new medications and all the things. So I was like, okay, I will try. Like, I tried this whole natural approach and I didn't get anywhere, so I was like, let's try this. So I showed up, and, I definitely had my guards up, and I said, like, I don't want any steroids. And they're like, absolutely not. And, I think I gave another list of things. I'm like, I don't want this and I don't want that. And, I was very like gung ho, and they're like, okay, like, have you heard of the drug Dupixent? And I was like, yeah, I've heard of it. I know it's really expensive. I had seen maybe a few YouTubers that had tried it. And so they're like, okay, well, would you like to try it? And I'm like, okay, I guess, they say that it's like the safest medication they have out right now, safe for children. And what Dupixent does is it blocks proteins in your brain, I think interleukin 4 and interleukin 13, and those are responsible for inflammation. So it just blocks those. It doesn't shut down the whole system like a steroid would. So it kind of targets, and it's, I guess, an immune biologic or something like that. I'm not a scientist, but that's, I think, basically what it is. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm willing to try it, but Dupixent in Canada is $1,000 a shot, and you need to take that shot once every 2 weeks. So that's $24,000 a year. That's $24,000 I do not have. So I said to them, I'm like, I can't take this. And they said that there's this patient support program that maybe you can qualify for. But to qualify for it, you have to do 12 weeks of methotrexate, which is like another drug. And like, now bear in mind, I already don't like the idea of me taking injections. Now you want me taking pills. And they're like, yeah, there's some side effects. You can look into it. But you need to take that to qualify. I went online. Methotrexate is like a cancer drug. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, you guys really just don't care. Like, you're just sending me out among wolves. So I was in a desperate situation. I was going through I guess another TSW at that time. That's why my skin had gotten so bad. So around last year, I got a surgery for carpal tunnel, and they actually do inject you with steroids anytime you go for a surgery. I didn't know. And so my body, it's almost like it had a trauma response to that. So my skin had gotten pretty bad after that point. Anyway, I was like, you know what? I really want to try this drug. I'm tired of my skin, so let me just do the methotrexate. Let's do the cancer drug. And I took it. I had to take it for 12 weeks. I probably only took it for 9. And I was like, the point is, I want to be on the Dupixent, not the methotrexate. And it really didn't do much. Thankfully, I didn't notice any issues, but a lot of people have a lot of experience, like negative side effects with it. Your hair could fall out, extreme fatigue, and yeah. So in May or April, I finally got approved for my drug, the Dupixent, and I took it. I shot my shot. You shoot it, inject it into your stomach. And at that time, I also decided to start my YouTube channel to kind of chronicle the journey. Cause I'm like, you know what? I have been through so much skin wise, and I will like scour the internet for people that have suffered like me. And it just feels like there's only a few of us out there in the world that have eczema. I don't even know people in real life. Like most people don't have it to my severity, just a few of us. So my channel is actually called The Few, and it stands for Fellow Eczema Warriors. So anyway, I started it then, and just to chronicle the experience. And I would say that Dupixent started working immediately. Within like the month, like my skin turned around. Like I had never had such beautiful skin. It was wonderful until it wasn't. I woke up one day and I started to get like little blisters under my eyes. And I had done research, and people had said one of the side effects of Dupixent can be eye flares. You can start to get conjunctivitis, which is like pink eye, blepharitis, and just swelling of the eye area. And so the second I saw those little blisters, I was like, oh no, it's happening. It's happening to me. And so I went to the doctor and I showed her it did get progressively worse. And she said, well, just keep taking the shot and maybe your body will adjust and it will go away. And I probably did that for about 3 months and I didn't see any improvements. And I just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna stop taking this. And so I stopped. And my skin was okay for about 10 to 11 weeks. And then I started to flare and it started to feel like topical steroid withdrawal. And so I just took the shot. And I wish I didn't then. I wish I had gone carnivore at that moment, but nothing before it's time. I took the shot again and it kind of subsided my issues. But then 5 weeks later, again, I woke up one morning and everything is just flaring. One eye can barely open it. And I remember I was going to a women's retreat. And so I just felt like this is ruining my life. Like I can't even go to this retreat, but I still pushed through. I went to the retreat anyway, and I was just miserable the whole time. Like it was a beautiful retreat. We're supposed to have a great time. And all I'm thinking about is my skin. I'm thinking about the dust. I'm thinking about should I eat this? Should I not eat this? Like I just wanted to enjoy and feel normal. And I feel like if you have eczema, you understand, like you just never feel like everybody else. When I go to people's homes, I'm thinking about the dust levels. I'm thinking about, do they have pets? I'm thinking about just like, is something going to touch my skin and make me itchy? What's the air quality like here? If I'm outside and in this nature's like, in the summertime, like you're just always thinking, is my skin going to be okay in this environment? And I was just done. I was so tired of it, like robbing my life. And I'm a bit of an extremist. So I just said, I'm not eating anymore. It's like I had an epiphany. I'm like, I need to stop eating. And I make jokes because I know I fasted many times, and whenever I fast, I notice my skin gets better. And if I just fast, I probably wouldn't have eczema. But obviously I wouldn't live because we need to eat. But it kind of is obvious that something I'm eating is connected to my eczema. And I just couldn't figure it out. I had always heard of like elimination diets, but I tried not having sugar, over the summer. I was doing different versions of diets, keto, and just still not quite getting anywhere. I hadn't eliminated like whole food groups. I didn't know I needed to eliminate that much. But anyway, so I fasted. I'd say on the second day of my fast, I was like, maybe I should try this carnivore thing. And I delved into the rabbit hole, the YouTube University of Carnivores. And I found all this information about the carnivore diet and I was blown away. Like I didn't know that I could use this diet to heal my skin. I just thought of the Petersons and like their severe issues, and I didn't have any of those. And then I thought of my friends, and like they kind of just really mostly lost weight from it, and I didn't have weight to lose. So I started to come up with these interviews of people that had eczema. A lot of times people just kind of said it in passing. They'd be like, yeah, I healed from cancer, and my eczema. And they'd like, and I was like, wait, your eczema healed? Like, let's talk about that. So anyway, I delved right in, and here I am 12 weeks later. It hasn't all been perfect. The first 5 weeks were like amazing. And I did an interview for Dave Mack, and like 2 days later, I had like a healing crisis and my skin blew up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was just on YouTube saying this was amazing. Look like Freddy Krueger again. Like, this is not fun. But it wasn't so much eczema as I could tell like this is some kind of reaction. My body is hives. It looked awful. So I had about a 3-week period that I was dealing with that. But I would say in the last 2-3 weeks, I'm just out of the woods and I'm seeing my skin heal rapidly day by day. And I can't even believe it. I just can't believe this. This is all it was going to take. No Dupixent, no medications, for all the doctor's visits, no one ever said, maybe you want to adjust what you're eating. Never once. So, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I feel like just hearing your story, I mean, the struggle you face and like the fact that you're just like finding answers within just weeks that's incredible. You've dealt with eczema and other skin issues like for so long. Like, seeing you finally get the real relief, like, it's amazing. And also you're just beginning Carnivore. Has it been like I think you mentioned 12 weeks, right? And already noticing the changes in just such a short time. That's crazy impressive. Yeah. I mean, I just want to go back to your struggles back with eczema.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, did you ever have to go through like a process, of getting ready? If you have to go out with your friends, or maybe going through a social gathering and you have to prepare maybe like a week prior, I have to know this event ahead of time, or, just fully prepared, like putting on creams, something like that.
Oh yeah, there's such a protocol. Like sometimes I think eczema has its own personality, and it will show up when I need to look my best. Like there's so many times it's like I'm about to go out for something, and then that's the day I wake up and my skin is flaring. I don't know if it's stress related. So I definitely had to learn to still live, because I think you don't want your sickness to like take over your life. And I was always very intentional that way, that I'm like, this is something that I have to live with. Like, and I don't want to have a subpar life, just because I have it. So I tried not to make too many excuses. If I stayed home, generally it was because I just really couldn't handle going out. It was just physically too painful. But maybe a year or so ago, I stopped wearing makeup. Even right now, I don't have makeup on. I just have some mascara. And that was very difficult at first because I had like a lot of hyperpigmentation and it looked awful. But it also gave me a confidence, I would say, to learn that, there's more to Victoria than just like what she looks like. And, but prior to that, before I had that revelation, I have to, like, I would be so concerned and insecure and like, okay, we got to put on these creams and put the makeup on a certain way. And like, make sure you wear the turtleneck so no one sees that your skin is like flaking here, and kind of pull your hands, like this, like, oh, and it would just be awful, but I try not to think about it too much when I was out. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't,
Very nice. So did you have like a favorite season out of the year? Like, do you like winter or like summer better? Like an example for me, I don't like either. So because winter gives me itch, but at the same time I can hide my my itchy rashes. And then in summertime, you go to the beach, I have to be fully prepared like a week ahead, things like that.
Yeah. Season wise, I think my skin does best in the summer now. But I would say that is since I had stopped steroid creams. When I used to be on steroid creams, I guess maybe those in-between months would be better, because I couldn't go in the sun because I would burn easily because the steroid creams thin the skin. And then if it was being inside, winter is the worst because that fake artificial like heat, it really irritates my skin. My poor family, they have to freeze because I'm like, no, like this, put on clothes, guys, because mommy's going to get itchy. However, now I would say in the summer, I love it. My skin loves it. If I could have the ocean and the sun, I think I would have been healed a long time ago. Anytime I go on vacation, my skin does exceptionally better, probably because of all the vitamin D that I would get. And just the salt water, that combination is amazing. So yeah, I would say I would prefer summer. And sadly, we're in the thick of winter in Canada. It's disappointing.
Okay. So you mentioned this earlier. I felt because I've mentioned this same thing that you mentioned to the doctor about I don't want any steroid creams. So I've mentioned this same exact sentence to a doctor, and they didn't have any answer, or like, because I feel like that is the only response they can get, is that we don't have anything else either. So what did they say when you said that?
When I say I don't want it, well, then they would offer me things like Protopic. So they have like the non-steroid eczema medication that still does the same types of things, so they're just like, well, you could try this or you could try that, or, and then I say no, and they're like, okay, well, I guess you're stuck. It doesn't really seem like they have a solution. It's amazing how quickly they're so willing to prescribe. Like, they just want to get you out of there. I think the doctors know that there isn't anything else they can do. I would just wish they would just say that or encourage you to try something else. And I think that what used to really bother me in the early stages, when I would say, this is making me worse, or this isn't helping. Like, don't tell me to use more. Maybe just, or even when I gave the idea of topical steroid withdrawal, they're like, oh, that's not true. I think now doctors are acknowledging that there is something called topical steroid withdrawal because of initiatives like this, where people are just sharing. Now, there was no social media back in the day. So, and these are things that the drug companies are not going to test, right? Because it's not in their best interest, right? But anyway, what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned like I think I totally relate to this when you said like I don't feel like everyone else. Like for people that have eczema. How do you feel like when you go out with your friends? I think from earlier question, like you have to go through like a process of like preparing. Like, how do you go out now with your friends or like relatives or family? Do they feel? Do they relate to you? Like, you're feeling good now because of the carnivore. Like this, all this healing was from carnivore. Do they relate to you? Like what you learned now, and then like actually applying it to your to the result. I mean, to the whole process of like healing.
Yes, I think it's very visible that I look different. So I think people can see, like my friends, anytime they see me, they're like, wow, like you look so much better, right? Or when I'm flaring, they're like, oh. Some people will say that they'll be like, oh, it's not that bad, which is so annoying. Like, don't lie to me. Like, I look a mess. I love my son, though. He's 10. And I think when I was going through my healing, like my crisis, like a couple of weeks ago, we went out and he's just like, oh, mommy, you're not going to put your sunglasses on, like inside? And I'm like, no. I'm like, do I look that bad? He's like, yeah. And then someone else was like, no, you look just fine. I'm like, just be honest. And, I can take it. But I think, yeah, a lot of people are starting to notice that the difference. I get a lot of compliments now on my skin, that I look much better, which is nice. I still do feel different than everybody else. Like I would say I'm like maybe 90% healed. Like I'm still in that process of healing, but I'm still mindful of things. And then naturally how I eat makes me very different again. So maybe now I'm going to start to look like everybody else, but then my diet kind of separates me from everybody else, which it has its pros and cons. The pro is healing. The con is just, you're eating differently than everyone. It could be very inconvenient.
I see. Yeah. So before going carnivore, what was your favorite food?
Oh, I make some mean chocolate chip cookies. I was definitely a sugar addict. Even though I would say just before going carnivore, I was in a no sugar type lifestyle. Every once in a while I would have sugar, but I love chocolate chip cookies. Oh my goodness. Baked goods. So good.
That's awesome. So
100% sugar addict.
so you've been on this journey for 12 weeks. Like, so I guess looking back 12 weeks early, was there like any mistakes you made, or how did you learn from them, if ever there was a mistake? Or did you just have like a gradual progress of the eczema like getting better?
Yeah, so I would say I did make some mistakes. I am someone that researches a lot. So I spent ridiculous amounts of time studying and good old Dr. Chat GPT asking a million questions about the diet. One thing about carnivore, I don't know for yourself, but you start to feel so good on the diet that I could forget to drink water and take my electrolytes and sometimes not eat enough because I'm just satiated. But I would kind of go from like 100 to 0. So I'd feel like I don't need to eat anything. And then all of a sudden I'm like ravenously hungry. And also because I feel good, I might not feel as thirsty. And then I got low on my electrolytes. So last week, I think it was, last week, I had a scare where I was driving and I was getting like spasms in my chest. If I didn't know any better, I would have sworn I was having a heart attack. It was bad. And I'm just driving with my friend to the restaurant and I'm like, yeah, my chest is kind of hurting. She's like, maybe you're hungry. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But like, this doesn't feel good. Like this is bad. And so I ate that day and it still continued. And then I started to feel unbelievably tired. And that was a bit weird because I don't really get tired on this diet. Like I wake up around 6, 7 a.m. and I would say until 8 p.m. I have solid energy. I don't need to take a nap. I don't get brain fog. Like I have solid energy all day. And then around 8 p.m., like I'm dialing down. And then by 9:30, like leave me alone. And that's one thing I will say that I'm not as energetic at night like I used to be. And that's probably because I'm not consuming sugar to give me like that extra pep in my step. But I am just not. Anyway, so I was feeling terrible. Like it's only like 7 and I'm feeling terrible. I couldn't think, just very, very weak. And so my friend that I mentioned earlier, she's been a carnivore for a couple of years now. I asked her, like, have you ever gotten these chest spasms, and like explaining my symptoms? And she said, you're probably magnesium deficient. Your electrolytes are probably running low. And then I was like, okay. And then I looked up on ChatGPT how many like how much I should be getting. And I realized even though I was taking electrolytes, I wasn't taking enough for my body weight and just activity level, all of that. And so that night I doubled up on my magnesium and I took an extra packet of electrolytes, and I've been fine ever since. Now I'm a lot more serious about taking those. And I mean, we're just not used to that. I'm not used to having to take electrolytes, so I can forget. And I have to remind myself, like, you have to eat because, like I said, I'll feel fine until I'm not feeling fine. And then I'm like hangry. I'm like, okay, I need to eat. I need to eat. Like, this is an emergency. And so, but it's amazing. I'm never thinking about food. Like, so that would be a mistake I think I've made. I really underestimated how much I need to eat and how much I need to take my electrolytes.
I see. Awesome. I guess I mean, I feel like it's early on in your journey. Like, have you ever, I guess it can also relate to what you just experienced. Have you ever had a moment of doubt, like with carnivore, like maybe a moment that maybe you almost gave up, or like, but you kept on going?
Yeah, I would say around the 6, 7 week point, I just for a split second, because like my skin started blowing up and then I felt like, okay, I'm doing everything right and my skin is getting worse. I definitely felt discouraged. I wouldn't say that I wanted to quit carnivore because I was like, okay, and what am I going to go eat like a bowl of pasta? Like clearly that's not going to help. But it just felt like, well, if not this, then what? But I had done enough research to understand that it was still very early on, and I had committed that I would do this for 3 months minimum and then go from there. I mean, I'm pushing 40. So it took me almost 40 years to get here with my health. I've abused my body for so long. You can't think within like 6 weeks, you're just going to reverse everything, right? So that was kind of in my mind. I'm a pretty strong-minded person. So I wouldn't say I doubted it, but I was discouraged, definitely discouraged. And I'm glad that I was well researched. I think perhaps if I wasn't, then I might be like, And I would say when I had the chest thing, I didn't want to go to the hospital because I'm like, if they're gonna make me not be like, they're gonna give me, I don't know what they're gonna do, but like I don't want anybody to tell me otherwise. But if you ever have chest pain, please don't be like me. Go to the doctor. But I also I'm very in tune with my body. I have had emergency situations, and I also have a very high pain tolerance. So I have gone into the emergency room and been like, guys, I'm actually dying. And they've looked at me, and then it turned out like 3 hours later, they're rushing me off to surgery. So I do have I knew I wasn't having a heart attack. I just knew. So, but if you're not in tune with your body like that, I do not recommend that kind of nonsense. So.
Yes, you're totally right. Yeah, if you have a chest pain, go to the doctor. Correct. They'll probably tell us to stop doing carnivore, and then something we don't want to mention to them.
Yes.
But
exactly.
Yeah. What does your typical day of the week eating look like? Do you do you keep it like consistent, or maybe you can walk me through what you usually eat? Do you stick to the same foods, or like mixing it up during the week or during the day?
So for myself, recently I've been eating, I used to eat 2 meals a day. I didn't come into carnivore with a lot of weight to lose. So since being carnivore, I have lost 16 pounds. And I feel like I'm at my threshold, 2 more pounds and I'm done. Like I'm not okay with losing any more weight personally. So it's great that I look great now. I'm not trying to get any thinner. So I've recently bumped it up to 3 meals so that I can kind of keep my calories up. But up until, as I said, recently, I've always just had 2 meals because it was hard for me to even eat more. Like if I just ate once a day, I would be fine. I had to push that second meal. Now I'm pushing the 3rd meal. I like to eat usually bacon for breakfast. It's like my favorite thing to eat. On carnivore, I have not been so lucky to be able to have dairy. I love dairy, but dairy doesn't love me. So unfortunately, every time I try to bring in like maybe some eggs or a little bit of cheese, I do notice a flare. So for now, unfortunately, I don't have any dairy a part of my journey. But yeah, I would eat bacon for breakfast. Maybe for lunch, I'd eat like hamburger patties. I'd probably eat, like if I were to get them from McDonald's, I could easily eat 8 of them. And then for dinner, I might have a steak. I might have a bowl of ground beef. I might have some shredded roast beef. Recently, I also started adding in organ meat, which I can't even believe because 12 weeks ago, I was like, that's disgusting. Like, how are we eating organs? But somewhere around 7 or 8 weeks, I started to actually crave organ meat. So weird. And the first thing I started eating was kidney. And then I had beef heart, and I love beef heart. Oh my gosh, it's like my favorite thing to eat. And I remember eating it and feeling so energized and nourished. This week, I also had liver. So once a week, I try to have one organ meat as my meal, not a lot because organ meat can be very high in vitamins, and you have to be careful about that. I'm sure people can look online and find out that information, but I do think there is a benefit to eating organ meat. So that's something new that I've kind of been grafting in. Seafood seems to be hit and miss. I'm not quite sure, but I do find when I'm having seafood, I do notice maybe a little bit of inflammation. So I'm still kind of figuring that out, but I eat mostly beef, pork chops, organ meat, and bacon.
That's awesome. You have a lot of options there, from seafood to organs. Yeah, that's a lot of options. I know you mentioned earlier about the the good thing about the carnivore, but what is the hardest thing about being carnivore? Like for me, it's going to be the social gatherings, right? The travel, and it was the cravings in the beginning. But for you, what is the hardest thing about being carnivore?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joseph. I think it's the social gatherings, and not so much because I want to eat what everyone else is eating. It's probably because everyone else wants me to eat what they're eating. Like I had a friend, God bless her. She knew I was going through a hard time with my skin a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "What snacks can I bring you?" And I'm like, "I don't none." And she's like, "But you need to eat something, you know?" And she's like, "How long are you going to be on this diet?" And like, you know, I love to cook. So I have friends that love to cook. They want me to try, you know, their latest this and their latest that. And it's like, "How long are you doing this? Is this a lifestyle thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it just might be, guys," you know? So I think that's hard for people, that food is such a big part of culture. And so I'm kind of like rebelling against the culture. You know, Christmas is coming. It's like, what do you mean you're not going to eat the pecan pie and you're not going to eat the macaroni pie and the this and the that, you know? And I think that's difficult because that's how people bond. And I just feel like when I even go out with someone and just like, all that shows up on my plate is like a steak and everyone has all their carbs and their things. There's sometimes maybe they feel bad for me, or there's a little bit of guilt on their end. Like, should I even be eating all of this? And so I think that's difficult. And then also when people want to debate you about it and say like, well, maybe it's not good for your long-term health and things like that. And I think people are very well-meaning. I know everyone, I'm very well-loved. But it's hard to get into the nitty gritty with everyone about it, and just that people could just trust that, you know best for your body and not feel that they need to do it as well. Because I think sometimes it's like, if I say something like, well, maybe our digestions are better suited to be carnivores, then they could feel like, well, then do I have to be a carnivore? Or, so I think, yeah, all the social stuff can be a bit frustrating. I would say everyone is very supportive in my life when it comes to me being on this diet, but I think they would prefer if I wasn't, because it would be just easier, I could be like everybody else. But I know that now, especially that my skin is getting better, I think that speaks for itself, and they know how much I was suffering. So then it's like, okay, you know what? She does look good. When I was having that flare and then it's like, you're still eating like this, then it's like, well, what's the point? Right. But now that I'm starting to look so healthy, I think that sort of speaks for itself. And yeah, everyone will just get used to it. I try to have lots of options. Like I had my neighbors over for dinner the other day, and I don't always want to lead with, yeah, I'm a carnivore. So I made like lots of different options for meat and only like 2 carb sides. I didn't make any vegetables. So even though my plate was full of food, but there was no carbs. But a lot of people don't mind. If you say you're on a no carb diet, nobody cares, right? But the second you say you only eat meat, then everyone's like, whoa, your cholesterol, you're going to have a heart attack. So I just, that kind of worked out, and it did come up, but at least it didn't look, my plate looked full. So even at Christmas when I host, I just need to be mindful. Those little hacks, when people see you have a full plate, they don't mind. But if you have a sparse plate, it's like you're starving yourself, so.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't help but think, what does your husband and your son thinks about you going to are they also carnivore, or I don't know, maybe like
Oh,
a close diet or
yeah,
something?
they're not. My son makes jokes, and my daughter. I'm always on them about it because, like, so now, and anytime they're like, "Oh, like my stomach hurts," I'm like, "Yeah, it's the gluten or this or that." I'm always blaming it on food, like, because I don't have any of those problems. But no, my husband eats more keto based, I would say, and then for my kids, I try to give them as much meat as possible. So you know how parents are like, eat your veggies. I'm like, eat your meat and then everything else. So I try to at least have maybe like 70% meat in their diet. And then, you know, they got to live their life too. So I do let them have other things. I bake all their snacks. So they're not getting any processed foods, except, you know, if they go out to a party or we have a gathering. But I don't force that on them. And then my husband, he's down for anything I feed him, he'll eat. I'm sure he's not perfect in his keto, but you know, he's pretty good. I don't think he feels the need. And that's the thing, Joseph, like if you're sick enough, then that's the perfect catalyst to do something so extreme. But if you're not sick, if you feel good, other than maybe a little bit of this or that, like, why are you going to do it? Like, if I didn't have to do this, to be honest, I wouldn't be doing this, right? So I try to keep that in mind that, you know, I'm doing this because this is a quality of life issue, but for some people it's not. So it's fine.
Yeah, I completely agree with that too. Yeah, that's a good outlook. I think I pretty much add on to it, you know, because I don't like to push people anymore, like how I pushed people in the beginning, like, yeah, go carnivore, because I went carnivore, healed everything. But yeah, now I'm starting to push back. I mean, just like kind of move myself back and not to avoid that.
Yeah.
But in your experience, I guess if you had to describe the impact of the carnivore approach in your life, what one word would you describe it and why?
I'm going to cheat and it's going to be hyphenated, but I would say life changing. Carnivore has changed my life. Like I've had eczema, like I said, I'm pushing 40 my whole life. And to see my skin start to turn around like this for the first time ever without the aid of medication, it's amazing. I can't believe this. I thought that this was my like sentence for life, you know, and clearly it's not. So it's changed my life in that way, but it's also changed me as a person. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so it's given me like discipline. It's given me like self-confidence. Like I can do hard things, like, you know, so I don't know. It just, there's something to be able to say no to what the world is doing. Like that speaks to something, and it gives you this inner grit and strength. It definitely has helped me like hormonally, emotionally. I just feel like a very different person on the inside. Like, you know, before, with all the food noise and everything you eat, it just feels like someone else is running the show, like in terms of your emotions, but it feels like I'm in complete control. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out, and it's like all the different characters are like taking over, you know, emotion and this and that, but it just feels like Victoria is in control of her life. And that's an unintended benefit of being a carnivore. I didn't expect that would happen. And just these are like not big deals, but a big deal. Like I don't have to wear deodorant anymore. Like when I floss my teeth, there's my oral health is amazing. I can't wait to go to the dentist. My skincare routine is so simple. I just have like one cream. I don't have to wash my face. I don't really get breakouts. Like it's just so easy. Like life has become so simple, and just how I filter everything is just very, very different. And I didn't know that could even happen just from a diet. Like, sure, do the diet change your skin, but it's like I've had all these other benefits. I'm never bloated, never tired, you know, as I said, unless it's late at night. So it's just literally has changed my life. And I'm only 12 weeks in. I only expect it to get better and for me to feel better. And at my age, I'm like, this is amazing. Like I know so many people, and people are like half my age, and it'll be like 12 o'clock and they're like in the afternoon, they're like, I'm so tired. Like, what the heck? Like, you're half my age. What do you mean you're tired? Tired of what? Like, So I'm excited. Like, I feel like this is, as I enter my 40s, I'm like, wow, I found this just in time. Like, they talk about perimenopause and all the different things. I'm like, I'm not going to have to deal with that. Like, I'm going to be fine, just fine. So literally, it's changed my life.
That is awesome. Yeah, I think you mentioned this so many times now. It's like hitting me really, like hitting me there, like up there, because you mentioned you're 40, but to me you don't look 40 at all.
Thank you.
Like way younger. I mean, that's amazing. So how do you define success, like, or progress through carnivore beyond just physical change? Like with us, the eczema, right? It's a physical change. It disappears, it heals, and also, not losing any weight. Like, how would you define success beyond just physical change?
I would say start to look like at how you feel. Like, sometimes things change. Like, it's not always going to be physical first, right? So something that happened to me very quickly or early on that I wasn't looking for. You have to look for biomarkers of health. I started to sleep very well. Like I said, the oral health changed. So I think there's just like these little nuanced things that no bloating, like that didn't have to do with my eczema, that I was like, that let me know that I was on the right track. So I think those just little things, but pay attention, but you have to give it time. So I was lucky in that, even though I felt like pretty crappy the first couple of weeks, my skin was doing well, but I was feeling pretty crappy because I was going through a sugar withdrawal. But once that, you have to allow that. Don't allow like the beginning, I don't feel well, to be like, oh, maybe this isn't working for you. I think once you push through that, then see how you feel. So I think one way you can only measure change is if you give it enough time. And I think personally, 3 months is a good amount. I'm not saying after 3 months you're done, but that's a good time to see like, okay, perhaps this is working for me, or maybe it's not. I think it could work for anybody, but I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So I think time is a good way to measure success, not just the symptoms that you're having. But for me, when I started sleeping really well, that was like a green light went, like, okay, this is good, because I never used to sleep well. I would like insomnia all the time. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it was the same thing for me. I know if I'm sleeping well, I know that's already a success for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you. Another thing is digestion, like your stool. I had eaten very healthy at certain points in my life, and my stool never looked as good as it does as a carnivore. Like, no strain. It comes out like, it's like perfect. Like, you could use it for a commercial. So I think that's another good thing. That's another thing to look for is just the quality of your stool. And that might take time for some
That's
people.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did hear that from a lot of carnivore. You're absolutely right on that. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, touch back on this one, because I might have missed it with the Dupixent. How long were you using that for again before you switched to carnivore?
So I started in April, I believe, and I stopped using it, I think, at the end of May. So I might have been only using it for 2 to 3 months. Not very long, but then I did end up using it again. And then I stopped and I used it again. So I would say the whole time from April to September of this year, my immune system has been compromised by Dupixent. And now I haven't had any Dupixent for 12 weeks. And they say that it takes about 12 weeks for it to get out of your system. All these drugs have like a half-life. So I'm really excited because it shows me that the progress that I'm making now is like genuine. It's not from the drug. And there's many people that have used Dupixent, and they come off the drug and their skin is worse, and for years. And so it just breaks my heart, especially if you look on TikTok, lots of people, you get like facial heat, or temperature-induced rosacea. So people have like splotches, they'll have lots of eye inflammation. Like it's awful, 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 awful drug. And they call it safe.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Um, if you can give one advice to someone who has eczema, having flare-ups, you see their itchy red patches, and they want to try carnivore, what advice would you give them?
Hmm. I would say, I mean, the first thing you need to do is you probably gotta start a little bit slowly. You have to assess your diet before you go into carnivore. So if you are coming out of like a really heavy carb heavy like lifestyle, I would recommend like maybe going keto before you go carnivore, and of course stopping all medications. Please keep in mind that your carnivore journey is going to look very different. If you're on steroids, if you're on Dupixent, if you're taking something for your skin, your carnivore journey is not going to look like perfect. There's people who weren't on medication and then they start carnivore and their eczema goes away within a week or a month. You know, I wish I had done that. That would have been amazing. But unfortunately, drugs really have an impact on how your body responds. So I would definitely say, you know, change your diet a little bit first, so that, because you're already going to go through a crisis from just withdrawing from the drugs. So that would be my big thing. And then really invest in carnivore content. Like just study as much as you can, because the more knowledge you have, that gives you strength to withstand some of the difficulties with your skin in the, you know, because it can be such a mental battle, that's for sure. And just push through, commit to the 3 months and then see where you're at in 3 months. And I have no doubt that you will be way better than you were when you first started. It might not be all gone, but you'll be in a good spot.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So some future perspective questions. How do you see carnivore evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, where do you see carnivore lifestyle in the community? Maybe some positive and some negative. Positive, like more people joining in because it has been working for so many people, healing a lot of health issues and struggles. And at the same time, negative would be, you know, beef is going high. The prices are going high. False information, maybe censorship in the social media, you know, because they don't want people knowing about this or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think really all the things you said. I think that who has the most money always wins. So that's unfortunate, unless they could find a way to mass produce cattle. I think that it's going to be an uphill battle for many carnivores. It's going to be something you're going to have to be so intentional about. I don't ever see a time where the whole world would be carnivore. I mean, we'd have such a collapse of the economy as a result of it. Although it would be so much better for us, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I could see it becoming a hot topic or a taboo subject on social media platforms and things like that. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I do think a lot more people will get heals from it. I think it will become more common. You know, like it's, you know, you meet a handful of people and meeting someone that's a vegan is normal. Meeting somebody that's a vegetarian, it's normal. But how often have you met a carnivore? I think you're going to start to hear that a lot more in just conversation. It won't be something that people are like, what? I think it'll be more normalized, but it'll probably come at a cost. But I personally think the cost is worth it, because health is, I mean, that's our best asset in life, right? Is your health.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel called Fellow Eczema Warriors. So you can definitely check me out there, and yeah, leave a comment. I also have my email. It's all there, felloweczemawarriors@gmail.com. And you can send me a message. I would love to chat with you and help you through your carnivore journey.
That is excellent. I'm going to make sure to post all of it in the description. V, thanks again for joining me today. I really appreciate it, hearing your story and learning more about your carnivore journey. Thank you.
My pleasure. Take care.